Greetings, dear Stalkers, and welcome back to the Grymm Mansion. My name is Abominathan, the kind of Dr. Apples are scared of. And this is my co-host.
Weird Aldrich. And I don't have any funny introductions to do today.
Alright. Tonight we're gonna delve back into the realm of the more recent horror hits that have happened in the last 6-7 years, and a rising star that is Jordan Peele.
Seriously, growing to become one of my favorite horror directors.
Indeed, and
I'm sure you agree.
Yes, nobody was expecting this to happen. This is really just one of those one-hit wonders, I guess.
But he just keeps doing it. You can really call
it's
him
not
that.
even call it a one-hit. I mean more in the sense that his first thing.
He came, he saw, he conquered.
Yes, indeed. But to this day, I still think that this movie really is his magnum opus. He's not done anything better than this yet.
Interesting you say that word specifically. You use that expression specifically. Magnum opus. We'll touch on that later. Let's just skip the introductions, I would say. Tonight, we're talking about us.
The candles have been lit, the circles have been closed, and the words of power have been recited. Let us begin tonight's gathering. Tonight, Jordan Peele's Us.
Let me quickly grab my notes. Okay, here we go. The movie opens with a quote on the various numbers of tunnels that America has underground, and how they have, for the most part, no known purpose at all. Then there is a cut to a TV that will introduce us to a time setting.
1986.
1986, exactly. During the Reagan administration.
And we see an ad for a thing, which was, I believe, a kind of charity thing. It was Hands Across America.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those plot points that just will keep being repeated. You know, I guess Chekhov's gun, you could call it. And we also see a forecast for a storm that could hit the West Coast.
Right there we have a time and a place.
Mm-hmm.
California, Santa Monica, 1986.
And here we see this family. So it's a
family of three.
A father, a mother, and a daughter. And we already see some problems with this family. The mother seems overprotective of her child. The father appears to be like he tries to probably compensate for his absence because he's giving her gifts. He's trying to, because they're at a fair.
Yeah, one of those boardwalk amusement parks at the beach. Dad's trying to win prizes to, obviously compensate for the fact that he's a bit absent at work.
And you can really see that this girl, name's Addie, or Adelaide, I guess, as they are walking through this amusement park, you can see that there is a kind of absence, a kind of distancing between that she feels to her parents. And she wanders off. She manages to, I guess they were distracted, and she wanders off into the beach. She actually passes a one of those, I guess you could call them prophet, like
panhandler.
Yeah, with a sign cardboard sign which says Jeremiah 11:11.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them.
And the numbers 11:11 are gonna keep popping up. Another Chekhov's gun, this movie is full of this stuff. So
there's a lot of references that we'll be coming back to at a later time when they make a bit more sense.
So she walks on the beach. It's nighttime, by the way, and she sees the storm coming, or she sees the flash and then the thunder.
It's interesting because it's one of the few moments in the movie where you actually see a lightning bolt, and then you hear the thunder.
Yeah, it's
right.
Really
a moment after. Yeah, cool.
And she turns around and she sees a.
It's definitely from the outside you can tell it's a hall of mirrors.
Yeah, and it says Vision Quest, find yourself, which is
There's a shaman, a very stereotypical Native American shaman, feathers in his hair, right? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But the words "find yourself" are the tagline for this hall of mirrors.
Yeah, and it's ironic.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. On the speaker, and this is something that the first time I watched this movie I didn't even notice. I don't think any of us noticed.
Oh yeah,
because we didn't have the subtitles. But there's actually something is being recited on the speakers. It's really like far off. It's almost, again, with subtitles it's really hard for you to even understand.
Very subtle. It's very subtle, definitely.
Can you remind me what it is?
If I recall correctly, it is about Hopi creation myth. They're reciting the creation myth by the creator God and how he bestowed powers to another deity to just go around and populate. No, it wasn't like that. What did he say?
Basically, they mentioned Sotuknang, and he was talking to the creator god, and they were talking about the spider queen, the
spider woman.
Spider woman.
Yes, she's a trickster goddess. Spiders are usually tricksters, but tricksters in the sense that they reside in the thresholds. They are able to cross realms like Hermes, for example. Mercury, sorry. They are able to cross the realms of divinity and man and the underworld. So again, it's in topic.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, and we'll get back to this again. But there's probably a lot of stuff here that does reflect itself in the movie later on. Anyway, so she enters the Hall of Mirrors, and she gets lost because, of course.
Have you ever been to a Hall of Mirrors?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get lost in them.
Yeah, and the lights go out, the speakers go silent, and
she panics.
As she's backing into...
She starts whistling a tune as she's looking for a way out.
Yeah, she's whistling a song to calm herself, and then she hears that song being...
It's, interestingly enough, the song, it's Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Oh, that's an interesting detail. I didn't actually get that.
So she whistles like a verse, and she hears a verse being whistled back. And she bumps into what we think is a mirror with back first. And when she turns around,
the reflection, quote unquote, does not turn with her. So she's looking directly at her back.
And we just cut with this face of horror.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine just looking at the back of your own head,
Must be an interesting experience indeed.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine somebody just who has no experience with the occult just seeing that. It must be pretty terrifying, yes.
Even if you have, the first time you actually encounter these kinds of things, it's It's
Yes, yes,
terrifying.
yes. It is. I mean, I can hardly remember that, but yes, I did. I had some encounters, and they were pretty striking indeed.
Regardless, then we cut to the opening credits, and it's interesting that even in the opening credits, as the names of the actors are strolling by, there's a zoom out of what appears to be a classroom, uh, but the focus of the shot is on a bunch of cages that are holding countless numbers of hares,
White hairs.
rabbits.
Yeah.
Not just white, but
I mean, yeah,
there's
yeah. Not all
rabbits
of
of
them
all
are white,
colors.
but yes. And I believe it just cuts to present day when we see adult Addie in her car with
Our own family.
yeah, her husband and her two kids. Uh, I don't remember their names. I think he was Jason. She was Zara. Zara.
Zora, yeah.
What was the
Gabriel.
husband's? Gabriel. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopefully won't forget that.
Isn't Zora a biblical name as well?
Jason is and Gabriel also. This
Yes,
definitely has gotta have
obviously.
something. Gotta have some symbolism as well there.
Of course they do.
Basically nothing. No single detail in this movie is by chance. Like it all has a point.
There is no wasted shots. There is no wasted line. Absolutely nothing in this movie is wasted. We'll get there.
We're already doing some analysis.
All right. So yes, they're in the car. They're traveling to their holiday together. They're doing what families do. And essentially, the conversation comes to a point where mom realizes that she is headed towards the place of her trauma when she was a kid. She has a flashback to when she was traveling back in the car. Mom is blaming dad because he was playing some games while she asked him to watch over Addie while she went to the bathroom, and this is when Addie got lost. Then, sorry,
Yeah, she's
this
seeing.
is not in the car. This is at the me.
This is when basically she's like on a therapist, and they were like
Yes, the
talking, and
therapist.
yeah, and like
My
her
bad.
mother is like crying, and like they're really they don't know what to do because she doesn't talk, and yeah, she's diagnosed with PTSD. I think it's in I don't remember if it's
Yes.
established here or later on the movie, but
No,
eventually.
no, it's in here. Yes,
Yeah.
it's in here in my notes. I just this seems confused.
Mhm.
Regardless, dad tries to put his hands on mom's lap. She retreats or she recoils. Dad says he's going out for a cigarette. He's clearly not coming back. He's saying clearly saying goodbye to Addie, and we just got to the present.
I think this is when they arrive at their new house,
Mm-hmm.
and this what is the place again?
It's around Santa Monica. It's in California.
Addie is very reluctant to go to the beach because I think it's established that the whole reason why they got into this to this house, this vacation place, was for them to go to the beach,
Mhm.
and now she just suddenly doesn't want to. Obviously, because PTSD and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
this was all buried in her unconscious and
Yeah,
it's all getting back to her.
Yeah, she starts to basically regret coming here, and she's like, I don't want to go to the beach.
But dad is really trying here.
Mhm.
He's pulling out all the stops to make her go.
And eventually she does give in when he talks about her son, Jason. He really wanted this, and yeah.
We have a scene though where Jason is trying to scare Zora, and because of this, he gets locked inside of the closet, and he starts panicking.
Man, I really
At
like
the same time, oh yeah, he's an interesting character. We'll get to him. It's worth noting that he's constantly wearing a mask
Yeah.
as as a visual description. At the same time this is happening, Mom looks at a young picture of herself dancing, which was one of the suggested activities by the doctor in the flashback.
Yeah, she has like a vision and she sees herself dancing next to a mirror and like doing the ballet training. And she looks at her reflection and the reflection looks back.
This creepy smile
Yeah.
looking back at her.
Premonition? Not a premonition, but like a just a one of those visions.
There is that finds a boat. They have the whole thing in the boat, but the same day they decide to go to the beach.
Yeah.
And this is where Zora drops some conspiracy theory on the family. Do you remember what it was about?
Oh yes. So Zora just out of nowhere just casually drops the conspiracy theory that and she says something along the lines of, did you know the government is putting chemicals in the water to mind control people? And
She obviously gets like dismissed by the family.
yeah, they like look at her like what?
Like, what do you want about?
And then she says, nobody cares about the end of the world, which I think is a great line. I'm still processing that. I'm trying to still understand what that
Mind you,
really
this
means. But
this is
that's
something that we've seen a couple of times, and we're still grasping on a bunch of it.
mhm.
Regardless, a song comes on while they're going on at the beach, and it's some hip hop song that does have some significance later. I think it went something like I got 5 on it. They mentioned that line a lot in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Um, Addie is trying to or trying to get Jason to go in rhythm of the song. And it's interesting that for the first note, she misses the beat. She's much slower.
Ooh, I didn't actually notice that, but that is a good detail.
We'll get back to it.
Yeah, because Jason has like a he's like a thing. I don't understand what that is. I think it's like a broken lighter or something, and he keeps like
It's supposed to be a magic trick that it will like make him do flame when he does not appear to have a lighter. I think that's the trick that he's trying to do.
yeah. I guess
But
it's like a
since he
spark
left
thing.
it,
I don't know.
yeah, it's a sparkler. It's supposed to be a lighter. It probably went out of gas because he left it someplace he shouldn't over a year.
No, I think what I think what it is, because it doesn't have even the like container. I think it's just the part of the lighter that does the spark, but just like around his finger, like a ring or something. It's weird. I don't know. But yeah, basically this kind of establishes then what we'll see later on regarding his character. But it's a interesting detail.
This is when the car makes the turn and the beach is just over in view now. And as soon as Addie turns and sees this beach, her face completely changes. As they're making their way, still in the car, to the beach, they ask the kids not to look because there's someone that's been killed on the road.
Oh
And
yeah.
of course, they don't want to shock the children.
And
Interestingly,
when Addie looks, yeah, it's the same guy she saw on the on that other night on when she was a child. And we see we know it's the same guy because he has the same exact. That guy kept the same exact cardboard sign. Like everything was the same, and he appeared to have been like stabbed or something. He had like a wound, like really, really hideous wound, bloody and stuff. Yeah,
an omen of things to come.
indeed.
Once we get to the beach, there's an interesting scene where we see the same house mirrors, the Hall of Mirrors, but now the forest theme has been updated to a more modern sensibility.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't very appropriate to keep that stereotypical Native American appearance, so they had to change it to make it more less culturally appropriating, I guess. So it was like a
Yeah, so
Merlin something like that.
it's
Merlin's
yeah,
Forest.
it's
Yeah.
Merlin's Forest now. It still has the same tagline,
Hmm.
the "Find Yourself" thing.
Yeah. And Addie is really just trying to avoid thinking. Addie is really trying to like block her feelings here. She's not communicating very well because they find another family, a white family, like a middle class.
Very interesting that only now we've mentioned race in this entire thing. It's to describe the
Yeah, yeah,
secondary
yeah, yeah.
characters.
Because well, that's it. Because these are the first characters that we see that are not black, basically.
Yep.
And so it's never been relevant to mention color until these guys show up, and because they're white,
Just
they're not black.
find it interesting
Yeah,
that
it's really cool because
that's the
yeah.
sort of movie that Peele does. It
Hmm.
he writes the characters that he wants to write, and this movie probably would have worked with any other people. He just
Yeah,
likes to work like this.
the characterization is really good and really yeah, it's we'll get a lot of chances to compliment his writing. But yes, so I forget her name, but the woman is trying to talk to Addie, and Addie's not very communicative. Like
To me,
you can
they
see
could
that
just be
she's
called the White Family.
the white family. So the white woman, I guess, she's trying to talk to Addie, and Addie's just not. It's not that she's not interested. She really just appears to be like dissociating. She's like really absent there. And we see the twins, which are the two children of the white family. And they're playing with Jason, and um, they go talk to Zora, was on the beach as well, and they say like, your brother is weird. After they say this, Jason has to go to the bathroom, and then there's a little bit of a humor. 'Cause, like, this movie has like sporadic humor when the twins look and they both say at the same time, "Why don't you just be in the ocean?" And then they say at the same time, "Jinx," and then double jinx, because basically it's a thing they have where when they say the same thing at the same time, they have like
The
this whole
synchronicity aspect is embodied in
yeah.
the twins.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Another example of the themes being repeated. And somebody throws a frisbee, and it hits the pole of the umbrella, the shade they're having. The two women are
No,
having.
I don't think it hits anything. It just flies through the two women as they were speaking. The
Yeah,
frisbee just swishes by them, and it lands perfectly on this patterned towel in circles that they had. So as the frisbee lands, it matches perfectly with the circle on the towel.
and then we cut to Jason getting out of the one of those
Porta
plastic.
potties.
Yeah, he gets out and he kind of wonders, like he kind of just explores the beach a little bit, and he notices something very strange.
There's a man just almost in a
T-posed.
weird sort of what?
Yeah, there's T-posing is it's hard to explain. Video games you don't really play those. But basically it's like when a character is standing and like with their arms in a sort of like in a T shape, and that's basically the pose he has.
You're a strange one today.
Uh,
Stranger than your usual self.
and yeah, Jason notices that this man has blood on his hands, and he's wearing a jacket, some kind of these
Do we see
clothes.
his face yet?
No, we don't.
All right. But he does eventually start walking towards the Hall of Mirrors, does he not?
No, I don't think so.
I have it here in my notes
I don't think he even
that he
noticed
does.
it. Really?
Or at least he, like, as he's walking towards the man, he is approaching the house because he's standing close by.
Yeah, it's in the vicinity, yes, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he, because it's Addie who notices, because Addie knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like Jason's never seen this before, so it's like, yeah,
So she starts getting, Mom, as you mentioned, no, Addie starts getting extremely worried that Jason isn't anywhere to be seen.
Hmm.
And she meets him by the house, yeah, close by to that area where everything happened. And she just decides to pick up things and leave. And while she's in the house, she's overhearing the news. It's interesting to mention that everything is triggered by, or again, she is triggered by hearing a game, a baseball game that ended at 11:11.
Hmm.
This is when she tries to talk with Jason about how he can't disappear like that, sort of conversations that parents have with their children. And Jason notices on the clock that as the conversation is ending, it is 11:11. And over on his desk, as he is about to leave the room, she notices a drawing that he made of himself looking at the bed with the bloodied hands. We cut to mom and dad's room, and dad is trying to get in the groove, for some alone time with mom. And this is when Addie lets everything out. Apparently, she had never told Jason about her experience at the Hall of Mirrors. And at the same time, this is when we viewers get the full picture.
Yeah, she explains that basically, she saw a girl that looked exactly like her in the Hall of Mirrors, and it
And
wasn't
that she
it
was
wasn't a
no mirror.
reflection. It wasn't a reflection.
Hmm.
It was
She was
somebody,
real.
and that basically ever since that that day that she's been afraid that that girl is coming after her.
Mhm. And she's associating all of these coincidences to the arrival of this girl, the mirror girl, as as Gabriel put it. This is when the lights go out.
Yeah,
And Jason comes into the room saying, "There's a family outside."
yeah, and when they and this is like once again we see just the great characterization that how differently the family reacts to this information. Because Gabriel is like, okay, family in our driveway, I'm gonna talk to them. He just gets out, like they kind of look out of the window and they do see indeed this what appears to be this family. It's like two adults and two kids, and they're holding hands and they're standing completely still. It's in complete silence and
Addie
darkness.
is freaking out. She's calling the police.
Yeah, Addie is
As
absolutely,
Jason, sorry,
yeah.
I keep calling him Jason, man. As Gabriel
Gabriel.
is going out to, just ask politely these people to, like, or ask them what their business is.
No,
Um,
no answer.
they do not move like an inch at all. He starts escalating into harsher words, and as he's turning inside, he starts to freak out as well
Yeah, he grabs his
because
baseball bat. He's
they
preparing
don't.
to defend himself.
It's uncanny,
It's
how this
yeah, it's the
to these people. At least it's not
mm,
normal that there is absolutely no reaction.
yeah,
Common moral is not used to this kind of apathy,
mhm.
to this lack of emotion, and that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. It's one of those examples of the true horror. This is what true horror is about. It's not sudden movements. It's not large monsters. It's this feeling of just something is wrong, very wrong, and it's so uneasy and so just yeah, it's pure
As the youth says,
terror.
shit is about to hit the fan and fast. Because when he comes back with the bat, when he comes back outside, he's he's no longer asking. One of the figures lets go of the hands and just like it claps. They clap, right? Or whistles, or they make some kind of noise. And
No. I think you're missing a detail. When he comes back out with the baseball bat and he's already just like he's threatening the family. They're no longer holding hands at this
they're no
point.
longer holding hands. You're right.
Yeah,
Yes, it is in my notes. Correct.
there's a it's a slight detail, but it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I don't know what the trigger is, but he says something and they actually start moving. And you would think
One of the figures does. Again, just for clarification.
they all no that one figure goes like forward, walks forward, and the rest kind of like scatter.
What I'm trying to say, that there's clearly one figure that leads them, as that is giving these commands out.
Yeah, but it's
they don't move until
Yes,
the leader
yes.
tells them to.
Yes, indeed. But
Okay.
there's this one figure, this large figure that goes forward to meet with Gabriel, and
One of them just hunches and scatters into the bushes, and there's a third that calmly walks out of frame.
yeah. And if I remember correctly, this big guy just starts
Lunging towards Gabriel.
yeah, just attacking him, and I think Gabriel runs back inside as somebody, or I guess this big guy is trying to force himself in, is trying to break into the house. He's like banging on the door, and the family is at this point is like completely terrified. This is just like
Addie is holding both kids in their arms. That is just forcing the door.
no, basically they're surrounded. They're breaking into their house.
Oh, and the leader is also whistling a tune.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Gabriel does lock the door, but the figure is approaching. The leader is approaching, and she's whistling something. And she picks up a key under a rock. The hideaway key, something that Americans do apparently, hiding their keys under something.
Mm-hmm.
This is when the big fella just grabs Gabriel's bat and swings at his leg.
Yeah.
And Addie is clutching her kids. Eventually, these figures round the family and sit him on a couch, and Jason realizes that it's them.
Yeah, when this small figure, this like kid, which has like has a mask, it's like has kind of these weird movements.
He has a
like,
sort of
sounds.
balaclava over his face.
Yeah, like
a
white balaclava, and he lights up the fireplace because by the way, remember this is blackout, like they're in complete darkness.
Yep.
And when he lights the fireplace, that's when we see them with light. Finally, we see what these figures look like, and they look exactly like the family. A version of Addie, a version of Gabriel, a version of
Gabriel has a fuller beard.
And he doesn't have glasses. There's some differences,
glasses,
but it's
the mask that Jason is wearing is balaclava, as we mentioned.
Yeah, but like
Zora
physically they are exactly the same.
Yeah, there's something different about them, clearly.
Indeed. And it's interesting that they're all wearing the same clothes.
Outfit. Yeah, they're all wearing red.
Like a red.
And they're only wearing one glove, which is a driver, like a sort of driver glove made out of leather. You know, the ones that fingerless gloves with the knuckles showing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They only have it in one of their hands. I think it's the right one.
I think so, yeah. And the leader, as you said, which is basically this woman that looks exactly like Addie. It's interesting the way that she moves. She moves in a very graceful, almost like ballet
robotic
style.
Too.
Robotic. It's very, very unsettling the way she moves.
It has a grace to it, definitely.
Yes, indeed. And she's holding a golden a pair of scissors.
Scissors
on her right hand.
Interesting that it's gold. We'll get to it later.
We'll get to the symbolism later. Yes. And she sits down, kind of forces him to sit down, and she starts monologuing.
Like a true villain.
Indeed.
It
And she.
essentially is a tale of a girl and her shadow. You know, it's every time something good would happen to the girl, something terrible would happen to a shadow. Every time that the girl had a full meal, the girl had to eat raw rabbit.
Mm,
Um, when the girl met her prince, the shadow met Abraham, which is, the camera pans to
to that dude.
Gabriel's shadow. Yeah, we'll call them shadows because there's symbolism, or reds, depending,
The
whatever.
shadows. I mean,
Color, I think color
she's
is
like,
also pretty big symbolism here, but
yeah, yeah.
she
It's it.
she names the kids.
Mhm,
Umbre is Zora's shadow, and Umbre again, the darkest part of a shadow's eclipse. Interesting.
mhm.
Pluto is Jason's shadow, and Pluto, the ancient Roman god of fire,
Of the underworld. Sorry.
the underworld. You're right.
I just want to mention a couple of details regarding this Addie's shadow, Addie's red counterpart. So as I mentioned, she has those movements, and she's the only one that appears to speak, and the way that she speaks is like she talks like this. Like she doesn't have vocal cords, it appears, or I mean she
It's almost as
does.
they've been severed. If there were
Yeah,
actual chords and if someone had cut her throat, she's
yeah.
speaking as someone who went through some sort of vocal repair, um,
Hmm.
and she also tends to cut at a certain intonation of certain words. Like when she says feathered,
I
instead of
think it's
feathered, it comes out
after
at
the T.
feathered.
Yeah, after every
Yeah, after
T,
a hard
she has
T,
like she
a
has
pause.
problems with speaking that. Yeah, yeah, and that's it's interesting that when they ask them who they are, like I think it's Gabriel. Gabriel asks like who are you,
Who are you?
and she
And
answers, "We're Americans." And we'll get to that because that phrase doesn't make sense if you don't see
yet
it in a specific. Yeah, it will make sense later.
So Gabriel is trying to bargain for safety of family. He's like trying to tell them that whatever they want, he can like he'll give them if it's money, like the cars, whatever. Addie has a very clearly different perspective because she knows what's coming. She knows that Red is after her, and she's willing to cooperate as long as her family is safe. And so Red produces a pair of manacles and asks the mom to tether herself to the table. As she does,
An interesting choice of word, by the way. Tether yourself
yeah,
to the
exactly.
table.
It wasn't me, it was her. She says this. I'm quoting.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I know.
Just for anyone listening.
Mhm.
She after Addie tethers herself to the table, she lets out some orders. Gabriel grabs sorry, Abraham grabs Gabriel's foot and just drags him outside. I think Pluto takes Jason off as well,
No, it's interesting because, like, yeah. So Abraham
like in
is
a
like,
friendly way,
yeah, yeah. Like it's like like Abraham's being really violent and really like he just grabs
aggressive
Gabriel and just like yeah, and then Zora is like she tells Red tells Zora to run
to run.
because Umbra's after her.
And this was mentioned before as well. Zora's in the track and field team, whatever,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
her
she's
high
she's
school thing.
a runner, yeah. And in contrast, Pluto and Jason are just they just go play together. I guess it's really interesting that the contrast, like the others are just being all really violent to each other, but then these two are just like playing with them.
Would all make sense later.
Yeah. So yeah, while Red is basically she's explaining that she wants to what she wants to do to them to Addie, while it's like pressing Addie's face onto the glass of the table and almost like breaking the front of the table.
Interesting shot.
Yeah. With those scissors kind of around, like just being really threatening and stuff. Jason and Pluto are inside of that wardrobe where they that we've seen before, and he's like showing the tricks. Oh, and we actually see that Pluto and Jason, they appear to have this really strong connection. Like the movements, like Jason is able to essentially control and copy and like basically force, not force, but make Pluto do the exact same movements that he's doing. So like he takes off the mask.
Yeah, it's
And we
clear that
see-
Jason and Pluto have, like, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but it's clear that they both have a stronger connection to each other than the rest of the cast.
he does the movement to like he takes out his mask, and Pluto takes out his balaclava, and we see that his face is burned from like the mouth, and his nose are
Half of his
completely
face is
scorched.
just
melted.
Freddy Kruegered.
Yeah. This freaks out Jason, of course. And he manages to do, I don't remember how, but he manages to like do one of like the tricks, and I guess he startles Pluto. By the way, Pluto, he has this kind of like almost animalistic like breath, like a dog almost. And
when he gets very anxious, he starts growling.
yeah, and Jason manages to like basically outsmart him and get out of the wardrobe, and then lock, because it doesn't open from the inside; it only opens from the outside. So he locks him inside.
The same thing he did when Zora locked them. It's interesting that we go back to it.
Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because we cut back to Addie and our shadow, and they hear somebody like a kid, well, in this case it's Pluto, like growling and like beating on the door of the wardrobe, and Addie I love this line because it's so casual. She just says, "That's yours," and Red goes and like walks in that like really like straight, like upright, like almost like robotic way. She goes around and goes to free her child, and it's just I like that. I like that scene.
You forgot to mention, I think it was here at least, when Red mentions the Great Untethering, or the Untethering, whatever she calls it.
Yeah, the untethering.
Where this is where the scissors will come in handy, apparently. But it's just something that I wanted to mention because we will get back to it later. Like so many things. But we see a bunch of things that are happening to the other people as well. Like Zora is being chased by her shadow, which is... she's essentially living in a slasher movie at this moment. Her shadow, Umbre, has this grin in her face at all times and clearly likes to play tricks. Like, there's this scene over on the car where they're looking at each other through the passengers and the driver's seats, windows. So they're looking at each other through the car. And Umbre ducks. Zora checks under to see if Umbre is like, hiding or trying to go under the car to get her. And she sees no feet. Umbre is on top of the car. Zora's flipping out. Luckily for her, the owner of the car shows up, and she manages to run off while Umbre slashes the man away. At the same time, Gabriel and Abraham are wrestling over on the boat, because Abraham was apparently going to just ditch Gabriel off Dexter style. And
they fight for a while.
Yeah, they fight for a while. I guess he manages to slice him with the motor on the boat after the
No,
struggle.
no, I think what happens is like because they have a whole thing then and ironically they're like there's this rope, and I think the rope is attached to Abraham or something, and then like Abraham, like they're fighting
There's a
in the boat.
lifesaver.
Yeah, and then because the boat has this thing. Again, I love just the way that we'll talk about the writing, but I love just the way that he just keeps bringing back. Like he has so many Chekhov's guns that he just keeps triggering. Because the boat,
Ah,
it's been
yeah.
established that the boat has like a failing motor, and so there's a scene in which
Not
basically
only
like
that, but that the boat um, that the boat veers to the left
yeah
on its own. Also,
yeah
that
yeah, and so like they're fighting in the boat, and like the boat like the motor stops, and Abraham just not Abraham Gabriel does this thing in which he basically like Abraham's trying to basically cut him with the scissors. He beats the motor with his head. The motor turns on and juts forward the boat, and Abraham's pulled back with the impulse and basically goes onto the. I don't know how he dies necessarily. I don't know if it's like drowning or just, as you said, like the
I think
because
it's the
thing
motor that
about the
slices
motor.
him.
I don't know, but like he just basically that's how he defeats him. But man, it's pretty intense stuff there.
All right, I got a little bit lost on my notes because
So
it's everything is happening all at once. But
mhm.
this is not to say that the pacing of the movie isn't amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
we're
no,
cutting we're
it's
cutting back and forth, and in the movie, it's great.
no, it's great. So the while an interesting scene as well that I forgot about. It happens around this time. So as Red Addy is going to get Pluto out of the drawer of the wardrobe, she finds a white rabbit, like a toy white rabbit, and she goes with the scissors and she slices the head of
It's
the
said,
rabbit. Yeah,
yeah. Another theme that will come across that comes across throughout the movie in
yeah.
like half of the scenes, I guess. There's a hair in it.
Yeah, and so as this is happening, Addie manages to break herself from the chains, the the shackles that she has by breaking essentially the table, the part of the table, because it's a wooden table. So she breaks the part of the table that the shackles are tethered into onto, holding onto, and she goes and finds Jason, and they run away. They get out of the house and they find Zora, who's coming back from being chased by Umbra. And if I recall correctly, they just go to the side of the lake where
Yeah, they go to the dock
they go
where
to the dock. Yeah,
Gabriel is just arriving with the boat. So, yeah, this is at the same time Zora is getting back uh, from her encounter with Umbre. They're all getting at, like a rendezvous at the docks at the same time that Gabriel is arriving with the boat. They manage to drive all the way to the other shore where the White family lives, and we spend like a very brief scene of them just getting they're talking about something, and honestly I have no idea what they're on about. I can remember, it's not important really, I think.
I think they were just
um
like saying, "Oh, there's somebody at the front door," or something like that, and the husband is like being really like because we just see like how this family is not a functioning family at all. Like this dude is just like he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, it's nothing, and yeah, and they're talking like that, and like he's being, and then they put like they have like this electronic device, that they use nowadays, that you can whisper to it and it does things for you. This one actually, it's interesting. The interesting detail. This one is called Ophelia, which is a character from Hamlet, if I'm not mistaken, from Shakespeare. It's a character that goes mad and drowns herself. And
Oh,
yeah, I
so
don't really.
knowledgeable of literature you are.
Thank you. I'm not sure exactly what the connection is, but there's got to be. It's another one of those things that is clearly not a coincidence. Like this was picked with a very specific reason.
Might pick up on that a little bit later.
Yeah, as the family is talking, and there's the twins and the mother and the father. One of the twins turns around, like looks to the side and sees somebody holding a pair of scissors, and we just hear. Because by the way, this whole thing, this whole scene has a song that they're playing on this device. I don't remember what the song is, but they're it really does not match. Like basically, it's like an anti. It's interesting because the scene is like an anti-tension scene, where it's a really tense scene, but the music is not matching the. It's basically they're making it a joke essentially. It's like a humoristic thing. We just see basically the family get murdered from behind the glass at this point. Completely just, they don't even have a chance. Just death, 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 death.
Wait, the song you're mentioning, is it the one when she says "call the police"?
No, it's the one before.
All right.
But yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned that because so yeah, now we see the murders, which is this family's shadow. Clearly, it's the ones wearing the red suits, grins on their faces because they're happy because they untether themselves. So the two twins and the mother and the father are all smiling to each other, and the non-red white mother, she's still alive, barely. She's like dragging herself on the floor, and she asks Ophelia call the police. And I just want to mention that this device has blood on it. It's so, the whole scene is just so ironic, and so like it has like this dark humor feel to it, where she asks Ophelia call the police, and Ophelia responds, playing "Fuck the Police," and yeah, the song "Fuck the Police" starts playing as she's has her throat sliced. Oh man, I think it's just really funny. The whole scene, the whole.
It was, yeah, the juxtaposition of the song playing, the family getting murdered so quickly, like with absolutely no chance to fight back. It was humorous, yes. Around the same time, that's when Gabriel's boat arrives on this side of the shore. And, well, getting into much detail, the shadows of the White family also get dispatched very quickly. And Addie, Gabriel, Jason, and Zora all sit down and take a good look at the news and realize that this is happening all across America, that there's a bunch of people dressed in red terrorizing neighborhoods, rural areas, like anywhere really.
Oh
and
yeah,
they all
because
seem
they try to call 911, and the
Oh,
line is
right.
blocked.
Yeah, the
The
line
line
is
is blocked.
blocked. Yeah.
Basically, there's nobody that can help them
It's a good
because this is
trope,
happening to
and like
everybody.
it's a good break of the trope. Like instead of not having connection or anything like that,
Mhm.
or
It's
cell
refreshing.
phones running out of battery, just everyone is trying to call 911. This isn't happening just to you. It's good to see it happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Mass terror. And they all seem to be organizing in a sort of line, like they're all holding hands, harkening back to the Hands Across America movement. They have a discussion about whether is it better to stay here or drive away. And after deciding to drive away, Zora is the one that insists on taking the car herself.
Mm. Before then, there's actually a scene that I want to mention in which Addie, they're getting out of the house, and Addie realizes that the body of the red-white woman that they took out is gone. And she looks around and she realizes that, yeah, the white woman is still alive and trying to get her. And she manages to, they have a short fight, and she manages to finally bash her in the head with the, I think it was the iron of the fireplace or something. And Jason comes up to his mom, and he notices that his mom has some weird antics. She's moving and doing these noises that are kind of animalistic, and they're kind of weird. This is the first time we see this happening. And I mean, we don't really, it's just a detail that isn't really mentioned. It's just a thing that happens, but this is going to be important later. She gets kind of weirdly primal.
All right. And so, taking the keys back to the car, they eventually meet Umbre again, who Zora tries to run over. She eventually climbs on top of the car, tries to get in through the roof. She outsmarts her, eventually driving at a very high speed, and then braking suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
Umbre just flies off.
Yeah, she gets stuck in a tree and probably broken spine and stuff like that.
Yeah, Addie just goes to check on her, sees if everything, like if she's dead or not. She sees her all bent backwards, like spine in a position that it shouldn't be, but she's still twitching.
Ugh.
So they get back to the car, they drive all morning to Santa Monica, and they come across a burning car, and they hear a thud. Zora backs up, and they see Pluto in the middle of the road, we assume that he's been underneath the car this entire time.
Yeah. Strong hands he has.
He essentially is baiting someone to come and meet him, making a
that thing
like a beat with his fingers to the same song, which we didn't even mention that they were whistling when they came in the room for the first time. The I Got Five on It song.
But it's a slowed down version. I love this this interpretation. It's awesome.
And Addie comes up to him, to Pluto, realizing that there's a line of gas between themselves and the car. Jason, and realizing that he's the only one that can do something to prevent his entire family from dying in a fiery explosion, takes control of Pluto through that connection that we mentioned earlier that's much stronger between them, and starts backing up Pluto into the fiery crash. This is a genius move by Jason, yes. But at the same time, he doesn't realize it, but he played right into Red's hands,
Yeah,
who
she
was
was.
waiting right there to snatch him.
Yeah, she grabs him and takes him away, and Addie's panicking, and yeah, this is when we go into basically the final part of the movie, in which is the final confrontation between the two Addies. The how should I call her? The surface Addie, the main
Well,
character
Addie in
Addie.
Red, that's what we've
Okay,
been calling her.
okay. So Addie
I think that's how they
goes,
credit her.
yeah, and she prepares to face off. She goes into because she knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, she knows exactly where she has to.
So yeah, she goes into the Hall of Mirrors and finds the secret door
A
into sort of
door
like a
that has a
basement.
white rabbit in it.
Yeah, and she goes into this kind of basement facility and walks
Something way too
around.
big to be underneath like a boardwalk, you know?
Yeah, this boardwalk clearly is a secret entrance to something, and she finds a
Escalator that only goes down.
yeah, and well, she takes the invitation and goes down the escalator, and is met with this massive, sprawling facility.
There's it's just a hallway with
It's just
doors.
you don't even see the end. It's just a line of blocks, I guess.
It has this liminal space energy.
Yes, it's like it reminds me of the back rooms, something like that.
The what?
Yes. Oh, you don't know the back rooms? Ugh, we'll talk about it in a different at a different
Look,
time.
if it's any of this internet age stuff, like I don't want to hear about it.
It's just to me. It's just I like to keep up with the times, and see what's up. I know you're not a fan of you like things traditional. You like
The
books. You like,
screens hurt my eyes. It just.
well, I don't have the problem because I don't have eyes, but I see through other means. Um, but it's anyway. I digress. So yeah, we're talking about this facility, and a striking detail is that this facility has lots and lots of rabbits, just
The
everywhere.
hairs.
The
They're
hairs,
free.
the white hairs, and I think Addie follows. Does she follow like a song, or does she like instinctively
There's
know?
one. I think there's one of the rooms that's open. All the other doors
Okay.
seem to, if I'm not mistaken, all the other doors seem to be closed. And this is also the room where the rabbits seem to be coming off. It
Yeah.
looks like the classroom from the opening credits.
Yeah.
But now the walls are full of bloody handprints. And Red is drawing. No, she's not drawing. Red is on the blackboard, and there's this line of stick figures drawn in chalk, all holding hands, and she's cutting, like making one of those foldable figurines, and she unfolds, and it's like 4 people in red that are all holding hands.
Yeah, and this is when Red drops one of the coolest expositions about this entire movie, which is that this facility was created by the United States government, or at least that is
It's
what's implied
implied.
here,
Mm-hmm.
and that the tethered were created as well as a sort of experiment that they were doing to try and see if they could control the people on the surface, where basically they did like exact clones of the people above that would share their soul. That is at least what she says, and like I don't know how
They would
accurate
have
that is.
no soul. That's what she said.
They can copy the body but not the soul.
But not the soul. Yeah.
She says something like that.
Harkening back to Zora's conspiracy theory thing that
Yeah.
no one believed in.
Yeah,
Okay, continue.
it's all connected. And so basically, she realized that she not only could get revenge for the pain that had been caused by, this needless suffering of these people that have been, because essentially this experiment was abandoned.
It failed.
It failed. But I guess these people, the tethered that
Were
remained
left to
inside, that were left, they kept, they kept being tethered to the people above, and they kept having children that were also tethered to the people above. It was just suffering, because basically it was like a massive amount of essentially insane people that were doing nothing, and the amount of suffering that was caused, she wanted revenge.
to think people would be able to cause such suffering onto themselves.
And but not she realized that not only she could avenge these people, she could also make a statement. And that's where the Hands Across America came in. She created this incredibly intricate plan. Everything had to go according to plan. Everything had to go exactly perfect. Luckily, she was not, yeah, exactly, in synchronicity. And of course, as a very talented ballet dancer, not only that, but them being tethered, their whole DNA, I guess, their whole biology or anatomy is prone to repetition and copying, and they're really good at this kind of stuff. So it is not too hard to believe that these people would be able to, in a couple of years, orchestrate this incredible performance of doing this line from the West Coast to the East Coast of the United States. And they did it.
Before they start fighting, there is one line that Red says that I think it's absolutely delicious. As she's splitting the remaining two figures, she says, it might not be exactly like it, but it's something to the effects of, and to think, if it wasn't for you, I would have never have danced at all.
Yeah.
Because it's through the dance that the tethered see that Red is somehow special, that she is different from the others.
Yeah, indeed.
And the dance was only brought upon by this traumatic experience as one of the things that the doctor recommended they're doing.
Yep. And then they have this fight, and it's an interesting fight because it appears to be more like, it feels like Red is taunting her in a way. It's it's very interesting in how, from what we can gather of the rest of the tethered, it's the shadow. It's basically the dark parts. I mean, we can get into the specifics of it. Basically, the more animalistic, the more primal parts of the people above. So the people above are more collected, more, technical, more, I guess, civilized.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
And the tethered are more primal. But that's not what happens with Addie. With Addie, it's almost the opposite. Like, in this scene specifically, we see that Addie is just trying. She's just, like, going at it with, like, I think it's that whole, like, iron thingy. She's, like, trying to hit Red. Just, like, there's this anger, this frustration, this is very primal.
There's a lot of repressed emotion.
Yeah, and Red is being so graceful and so...
He's dancing to the sound of a slowed version of that.
Yes,
I got 5 on it song.
I love that soundtrack so much. And yeah, like, it's a really strange scene when you don't know what we know.
Twist.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful as well. The way that, like, this contrast, like how she's just dancing. It's to her, it's a dance. It's not even a fight. Eventually, oh yeah, because Jason followed her, I guess. Oh yeah, no, yeah, because she had Jason inside of a ward of one of those
a locker,
yeah,
where they keep their clothes.
And basically, they're fighting for Jason. I mean, Red is not fighting for Jason. Red is just trying to torture Addie as much as possible, I guess.
Yep, revenge. We can just really just skip to the good bit, you know.
Yeah, we should just reveal it already.
No, no, that's not it. Let's just skip ahead to the fight, how it ends, and then we'll
Okay,
talk
okay,
about it.
okay.
So this
So yeah,
after like this struggle is as you have said, beautiful, and it ends almost like unceremoniously as she stabs Addie stabs Red with the iron poker and drops her through the stomach, drops her near one of the bunk beds, and essentially as Red is like with blood in her mouth and still trying to whistle what I assumed to be Itsy Bitsy Spider,
mm,
uh, Addie uses her manacles still that she still has on her to choke Red until her neck snaps. And she's grunting in that sort of primal way
mhm.
that you've been describing so far. After that, she lets go, she finds Jason, and they make their way out of the facility.
Which I don't. By the way, I don't know how that's possible, considering it's the. I mean, they have to run up the escalator, but
Mm-hmm.
details. Yeah, so they essentially the movie comes to a close when to its conclusion when the family gets in the car. Everybody's surprisingly alive. It's
Yeah,
amazing that
Zora
none of
and Gabriel are in an ambulance. They're patching themselves up
yeah,
when
yeah.
the sorry, when Addie and Jason get back. Continue.
Yeah, and they get in the car and they drive away to Satan knows where, and they see the line. They see this line of tethered doing the whole hands of across America thing, and they have to kind of find new roads and stuff to kind of go around it. And as it is Addie who's driving this time,
Yep.
and Addie is driving the car, and Jason is on the passenger seat to her right, and this is when it is revealed to us a part of the movie that's been hidden from us this whole time. A very crucial detail that Addie's been hiding from everybody.
And from herself as well. It's been repressed this entire time.
Yeah. We see the flashback of what really happened that fateful night when she met with her shadow, in which, when she was in the Hall of Mirrors, the girl that she saw grabbed her, let her pass out,
By the neck.
and then dragged her down the escalator and shackled her in that facility, the facility of the tethered, took her clothes, swapped her clothes, and took her place in the surface as she's walking away with a smile, leaving her to rot in that horrible facility. And it's here when we realize this whole time that Addie was a tethered and Red was not. Red was the one from the surface. And Red, the whole deal with Red is that she was taking revenge for that one incident more than anything. And that's why she was special, because she wasn't a tethered. She was a human. And that's why the tethered saw her as their chance to change, as their savior. And this is just an amazing twist. It's incredible.
Indeed.
And as they're in the car, as Addie's driving and Jason is next to her, Jason looks at her because Jason, like, remember, Jason saw her having that weird primal thing when she was killing the red white woman. And then again, when he was in the locker, he heard those primal like grunts that that Addie was doing when she was killing her own shadow, when she was killing Red. And the way that Jason looks at Addie, at his mom, tells you that he knows. He knows. But he says nothing, and he just, as he's looking at her, he just puts back his mask to really, really represent. It's beautiful because there's no dialogue at all. It's just
She smiles. She looks back at the road, and he just drops his mask on.
Like, I'm telling nothing.
The camera pans out, and as we are adjusting to the light, we start seeing this red line of people across that extends to the horizon, and a bunch of fires here and there, helicopters just flying around, apparently surveying the area. And
I mean, we
that's
don't
how
know
the
if
movie ends.
we don't know if the people in the helicopters are actually they might be tethered as well. Who knows?
Yep.
But man, the United States just got completely destroyed. That's
All right. I feel like I need a break before we start delving deeper, but
yeah. We can do that. I can go
oh,
refill my
okay.
I'm back.
Welcome.
You want to do some research first?
No, we're good.
Okay. Good on
Well,
that.
I mean, I can't watch the movie in between this and like now. Like I can't. So ready as I'll ever be.
Okay.
The only problem is I don't know where to begin. I know where I want to end. I don't know
You don't know
where
where
I
to
want
be.
to begin.
Yeah. Where? How do we even begin to analyze this? Because this is a movie that is just so
All right.
packed with meaning and symbolism and like
Let's start.
it's
Let's start with obvious. Let's start with obvious stuff. You know, the first setting of all, 1986, Cold War era, and this Hands Across America movement is supposed to be representing union, right?
something like that. Yes. Um, it's interesting the setting that they picked because there was or there's a theory of some experiment or some conspiracy, because there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, that the United States government had in, I'm not sure if it was the previous decade or some decades before, had taken a copy of the DNA of every citizen, of every US citizen. And this was officially for probably research purposes relating to smallpox, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you mean to say that they were taken during the smallpox vaccination?
Yes,
Okay.
during the smallpox vaccination. Of
Oh,
course,
that makes sense, right? You know, if you
yeah,
want to get to a lot of people,
yeah.
the best way to take the DNA would be through that, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the theory is that they and I'm not sure if the movie is kind of building on that theory. I'm not sure, but basically the idea is like the government tried to make this experiment and it failed catastrophically. Um, I guess I can attest to that because I myself have experimented with cloning and this procedure. It really it doesn't it's not as easy
Fickle,
as they
right?
thought it would be. Hmm?
It's fickle, yeah.
Yeah, because as Red had mentioned, you can copy the body, but you cannot copy the soul. That is something that really is unique. I'm not going to go into much detail because I don't want to reveal my secrets, of course.
So again, the movie does subscribe to a theory that this would be a possible experiment that the United States done on its people.
Hmm. Now, of course, that is the literal interpretation because I don't like when you if you take this movie too literally, it starts to it's not how it's meant to be interpreted, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, think about it. Like,
Yeah.
could there be this amount of people living underground? Like, the movie
Yeah.
does
No.
start open. The movie does open with this quote about the amount of underground tunnels that the U.S. has underneath, and that nobody knows their purpose. But I'm agreeing. I'm subscribing to your words. I don't think that it is a literal movie that is taken to be that is meant to
Yeah.
be taken at face value.
Yeah. Because when you if you really get into it and you really start to try to try to analyze the implications and the practicality of all of this, it starts to, yeah, you're gonna get lost. So I
To
wouldn't go
suspend
there.
your disbelief a little bit, indeed.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't go there. Although
I think the movie
I
shines much more through psychological lens.
yes, no, clearly this movie has a lot of psychological and Jungian undertones. Uh,
Delicious.
yeah, so you probably are as familiar as I am with, or
Yes,
if not more,
it is in fact one of the
Young
things
Thor.
that we like to discuss about,
Mhm.
since me being a man of more esoteric knowledge and you being one of more scientific one. Um,
I think Jung's theories
Something
are a
that
good,
appealed to us both.
yeah, it's a good connection of both the scientific fields and the occultistic fields. And yeah, occultistic, is that a word?
Cool.
It is now.
Oh, yeah. Um, so yeah, this is something that we could go a lot into. For example, uh, again, where to even begin? Let's
And
say,
with the tethered itself, the concept of
all right, yes, sure.
the
So
shadow.
yeah, they are. So in Jungian psychology, the shadow is supposed to represent everything that the self rejects, or not the self. So no, the it's supposed to be everything that the ego, which is the I think, right, represents. It's everything that we don't like about ourselves, essentially. If there's something that you don't like about yourself, something that you want to repress, something that you don't accept as you, is where you compartmentalize, is your shadow, is the way you put all the things that are not in agreement with what you identify, but nonetheless are part of you. And we see that through the shadows, through Abraham, through Pluto, and through Umbre. Whereas whereas Gabriel is this role model of a dad. He's everything that Addie's dad wasn't, like, or what didn't appear to be. At least he seems like a present dad. He seems like a dad that engages with his children. That, like, he tries not to have them swear, even if it's minor stuff. And Abraham is violent. Abraham is loud. Abraham shows no emotion. His face is very stoic, is very locked, is expressionless, essentially.
Mhm. So yeah, the shadow is everything that the ego rejects. And when you start thinking through this lens, it's like, so yeah, this shadow of Abraham, he, so Abraham then is everything that Gabriel rejects in himself. So in a way, it's like, this is like, Gabriel could have been like this, but he chose to go a different path. So he rejected all of these traits, the violence and so those traits got
Are
into,
repressed in them.
yeah, those traits basically thrive in Abraham, and that's an interesting thing because it gives you a lot of insight into also the characters, because you don't really think of it like that, but they're the two sides of the same character
Exactly. The
in a
same
way.
thing happens with Umbre. Umbre, Zora is sort of disconnected with her family. Zora seems to be, she's in touch with the world, and she's clearly conscious about a lot of things happening around her today, as is noticed by her. She's constantly on the phone.
Yeah.
She's constantly on social media. She's the one that drops the conspiracy theory on them. And Umbre is psychotic. Umbre is the exact, it seems to be the exact opposite. When you think of stereotypical, when you people that are, at least like people that go on social media, that I see through these movies, they are all always very scattered. They're always like, their attention span is of a mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they are constantly being bombarded by stimuli. Umbra is focused.
Mm-hmm.
Her killer instinct is honed sharp, and she has one task, and that is like, she did get distracted, sure, but she she has this playful nature that Zora does not really show with her brother. Um,
Yeah.
Zora does not really want to engage with her brother at all. She locks him in the closet in somewhere in the beginning of the movie, and Umbre is toying with Zora like a slasher.
Yeah. But it's interesting that, yeah, like, as you said, that's a good point. It's like there is, again, like, this is Zora's shadow. So these are the traits that Zora is or has been repressing or erasing from her personality. And you see, like, when she locks her brother in the closet, that shows a little bit of a carelessness, or like almost like a, because it's a bit cruel, like she knows what she's doing. And she doesn't do it accidentally, she does it on purpose. And you see that, of course, exaggerated to turned to 11 in Umbra. But as you said, Umbra is really playful, which is something that really is not seen in Zora at all. Um, so yeah, once again, it's a very interesting characterization that's done. It's really well thought out.
I don't think that is the case for Pluto, for example. Pluto and
Yeah.
Jason, their connection and I think that this is because Jason is still young and his mind is still very plastic
Still
or
developing.
elastic, still developing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has this deeper connection with, he has still not gone through individuation, because that's the term that would be used.
Hmm. The develop, the that division of the ego and the shadow, and that
Yeah, so his personality is still not yet formed totally. So he's still very much in contact with the deeper parts of himself. You know how kids are very mean and they might do something that's completely
Mhm.
out of character for a kid to do. Just
Yeah.
grab a fork and just poke something or someone very
Yeah.
hard and break their skin or muscle, for example. Anyway, then another thing that we could talk about, and right in segue for this, is the context in which Addie meets her shadow. There's a storm, and yeah, I guess in Christian in Christian mysticism, you have this concept or this poem of the Dark Night of the Soul that could be equated to this period that Addie is about to go through. And she does get lost in this dark forest, which is another Jungian concept.
Oh, the Dark Forest. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds, quote unquote, she finds herself.
Yep.
But what actually happens is she loses herself in the Dark Forest. She's replaced by her shadow as.
Yes, there's this the storm and the forest that she's about to get lost. These are all archetypes in Jungian psychology. it's almost extremely tongue in cheek if you are familiar with these concepts.
It's very
It's
literal almost.
they're all very literal, but they would pass by the most like most people, you know. Even
Indeed.
if you harken back to any movie that you've seen with, say, the hero's journey, there's always a period where a hero would get lost in a dark forest. I'm thinking, for example, Lord of the Rings, when Sam and Frodo get lost in the forest where Old Man Willow is, and they get saved by Tom Bombadil. I'm thinking about other.
Hmm. No, it is a common trope. It is a
Yeah, this dark night of the soul where
device.
you go through your darkest period before you start uh, becoming something greater.
Hmm.
And you mentioned in the beginning the word magnum opus, and I
Yes.
said that it was interesting because Jungian, something that fascinates me about Jung is his modern interpretation of alchemy. Of course, he was not initiated in proper alchemy,
Yeah.
but his
Of course.
interpretation is nonetheless interesting. And he equates the self with the philosopher's stone, which is red in color.
Nice.
Also, another thing that the philosopher's stone, as I'm sure you know, does is transform common metals
Into
into
gold.
gold,
Yeah.
which is the most perfect metal in for alchemy, in alchemy terms.
Hmm.
And all their scissors are made out of gold, the thing that will tether or
They will
untether
untether.
the body or the soul or whatever you want to call it from the people and into the shadows is this perfect symbol or the symbol of this perfect union of the perfection of oneself in solidified into an item that we
Yeah.
have right here,
Yes. Right over there.
achieved
And
by the same process.
and it's interesting. The whole scissors, that icon is really interesting because yes, as you said, it's gold being the perfect metal, and they're wearing red, symbolizing probably, as you said, the philosopher's stone. I think that's not a coincidence. And the scissors being, them being tethered, the whole untethering would be, cutting the string, cutting the tether. You use scissors for that. So there's that. That's why they're using scissors. It makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if you've noticed something about the scissors. The design of the scissors themselves is also has a very interesting property to them, which is if you look at the two like the holes, I don't know what they're called, the places you put your fingers around, the two loops.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that look like two faces, two heads looking at opposite directions, like a reflection? I feel like that's another one of those things, those designs that is not a coincidence. It was designed to look like that.
Hmm. I don't
That's
think I've ever noticed that.
my interpretation. But yes, it's an interesting. If that is indeed true, the
Facing facing
purpose.
like away from each other. I
Yes.
maybe yeah. I think I could see it. Looking at the poster, yeah, that's hard to deny though. That's very interesting if it's
Yeah.
true. The entire movie again filled with
It's just
heavy
it's
symbolism.
so.
The opening, the Jeremiah 11:11.
Hmm.
Um, how can I connect this to?
Well, it's connected to the that revenge. It's essentially
Yes, I
foreshadowing.
will. Yeah, I will bring evil upon them, and Red did bring this evil upon them,
Hmm.
and there was nothing that they could do. Um, the Tether would never could never hearken onto them because they can speak. I mean, they
Yeah,
can listen, but they will never give an answer back.
which is an interesting detail as well. Like the shadow never speaks. It can't speak. That might have something to do with Young again. Um, and oh, and the connection to the, yeah, as you said, the dark forest and all that. I mean, I think also that what we mentioned of the story of that Hoi mythology that was spoken in the speakers. I think that also has,
Oh, the Hoppy myth.
yeah, because they were talking about the, I don't remember the exact words, and I'm a bit sad about that because I do remember that had something to do with it as well. There was some more. If you couldn't get more literal, that was a more literal version of, I guess, what was happening there to explain that switch of the girls.
Um, I think it was about how the um, the greater divinity was not still satisfied with the work that
Mm,
the deity that he'd delivered the task to create the worlds
yeah,
had done.
that's it. That's it. Yep.
So he was to, although the worlds were made, they would still needed to be populated with all kinds of life. And if I'm not mistaken, the lights go out right when he's about to say that the world needs life. The lights
Oh,
cut.
nice.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and to
Again,
shift gears.
sorry. I'm sorry. No, no, no. Still on this topic. You did very well in bringing the Spider Woman back, because I did mention that, and usually in mythology, the spiders are seen as tricksters, and I want to clarify that by
Mm,
saying that um, they're usually the thresholds, the gods of thresholds. They are usually able to cross between the barriers of the divine, the material world, and the underworld. And it's interesting that this, in this, they're talking about this in this liminal space where Addie is about to cross between
yep.
the material and the physical and the metaphysical, where she's about to have a transcendent experience and meet herself in a way.
Yep.
Um, it's again, no, there was no wasted shot, no wasted line, no wasted nothing.
Yeah, it's just the, as we've mentioned before, like the writing in this movie is just, it's just so good. It's so well written, and like the characters feel real, and the scenes, just watching it once is terrifying. Watching it twice and more, you just enjoy it so much. The pacing is great. The and just all the details, like picking up all these details that were left behind, and that you didn't really make connections, and then making new connections and seeing, oh, this was relating to that, and this, yeah, getting all the foreshadowing is just, yeah, it's just really good. Um, but to shift gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about the more, I don't want to say political, but like the more sociological aspect of this movie
Always
because of
present.
that
It's a Jordan Peele movie.
Yeah, the commentary, the commentary. Because of course, yeah, you're always going to get sociological commentary. And this movie probably is the one with the. I mean, I didn't watch Get Out, but yeah, this probably has a lot of it. Especially
Get
going back
Out,
to
I think
that.
Get Out is more racial.
Yeah,
This one is more social.
yeah. So going back to that
Not that the
line.
two are mutually exclusive, but again.
Mhm. So going back to that line that is spoken by Red in in the in that scene when they're in the fireplace and the two families are talking, and when Gabriel asks, "Who are you?" and she replies, "We're Americans." This makes sense when you interpret it in this way. These are like the tethered are like the lower class. They are the people that are in the shadows.
The
They
invisible.
don't, yeah, they're invisible. They don't have enough to sustain themselves, so they eat rabbits in this case. While their
Raw rabbit.
surface, yeah, raw rabbits. While in the surface they have good food, they have good relationships, they have they're successful, they dance, they do all those things, and the tether just have to obey. They're puppets. They don't have individuality.
No free will.
Um, no free will, or at least they might have, because she mentions that they're still human, or at least they still feel human. They still have the same biology as a human, but they're not treated as humans. They can't be. They're designed to not be, to not have that free will. And essentially, if you interpret the movie by this light, what Red is doing, and by the way, Red being color of also revolution, all those things, but I don't want to get too much into that stuff. Um, Red is basically a revolutionary. She has created this. She's gathered these people, the oppressed, the tethered, and given them weapons, given them the ability to take revenge on the ones who are
Give them a voice.
oppressing them. Give them a voice, indeed. And yeah, there's also this commentary of the tethered and we see this also with the whole representation of the middle class American family, like nuclear family. It's very present, very explicit, that commentary. Just because the characters are like pretty much all of the characters that we see are a part of a nuclear family, except the difference is that the ones from the surface are in a somewhat, I mean, it's not I wouldn't say like a working, I mean, the main characters, they do, like, the family's pretty all right, I
Yeah, I
guess.
would say so.
The other ones not so well, but like they have, he can buy a boat, they have houses, they have a car,
They're
like a
doing well.
family car. They're doing well, exactly. And in comparison, the tethered are doing awful. Like, they don't love each other, they hate each other, they just, they're not okay. They're not
They're
okay. And
together
that's
because they have to.
exactly because they're tethered to the family who controls them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's also that in my opinion, quite a explicit vision, explicit comparison, and yeah, and
Oh,
also
I
the part that's
100% agree.
mhm. It's just interesting to see this movie does so much. Like, it does so many things, and it does them well. It manages to do social commentary, manages to be terrifying, to be just an absolute, like, fear trip. It manages to go into Jungian psychology, It manages to be a great action movie. I love the action in this movie. It's really nice. It's just really, really cool and really, really interesting. And then the drama between the characters, the writing, the jokes. It does so much. It's a great movie. I love this movie. If that wasn't clear.
No, it's the more because the I didn't just watch this movie once. Obviously, it's one of those that you just have to go back and watch again and understand exactly how all of this was put in front of you and you just didn't realize it before. And it's growing to be one of my top favorite movies of all time, definitely. Um, it is very, very well made, and I think that it's going to be one of those talked for ages, eventually. Uh,
It'll
if it's
become a
not,
classic
yeah.
one day.
I guess my message to everyone tonight is keep bottling those feelings you have inside of you. You know, repress them very well, deep, because one day they will come surface out in the worst possible way.
Yeah, and then you won't have a way to run, because no matter how much you run, they always know where you are, and they won't stop until they do the untethering.
You can run all you want, but you can't hide from yourself. So, what are you rating this movie?
I am rating this movie 10 golden scissors out of 10 raw rabbits.
We didn't even mention how the gloves were probably a reference to Michael Jackson.
Ah, damn, yeah, you're right.
Oh well, anyway.
Too late.
I agree with that.
And with that, the candles are out. The circles have been erased. And we will let silence reign again. The Grymm Mansion is closing its gates. Have a horrible night. And until we meet again.